Imagine having only a torn notebook, a broken wooden pencil, and a dream so big that everyone around you laughs at it. No internet. No teachers. No money. Today, you are going to listen to the incredible story of Kiran, a 17-year-old village boy who proved that a single daily habit is more powerful than any rare, natural talent. If you want to transform your life and your English today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let's dive into The Boy with the Broken Pencil. The story, The Boy with the Broken Pencil. Once upon a time, there was a small village. In this village lived a 17-year-old boy named Kiran. To anyone passing by, Kiran looked like any other ordinary village boy. But inside his heart, he carried dreams so grand they could touch the sky. Kiran lived with his family in a modest mud house. Life was a constant battle against poverty. His father was a farmer, a man with deeply wrinkled skin and calloused hands, who labored for hours under the merciless, burning sun. His mother woke up before the dawn, her eyes stinging from the smoke of a clay stove as she cooked simple meals morning after night. They had very little money, but their home was always filled with two things: abundant love and unyielding hope. Kiran possessed only two treasures for his education: a small, torn notebook and a broken wooden pencil. Every single day, he used that short pencil to write down his biggest goals. And every night, before closing his eyes, he would look through the cracks of his roof at the brilliant stars above. He would whisper into the darkness, "One day, I will become someone great. One day, I will change our lives." In his village, no one had ever left for a big city. No one had a higher education. The village elders always said the same thing: farming is the only life for poor people like us. But Kiran never allowed those words to take root in his mind. His heart told him a completely different story. The spark under the banyan tree. One warm afternoon, a stranger walked down the dusty village road. He wore clean, crisp clothes and carried a sleek, shining laptop bag on his shoulder. The village children, filled with burning curiosity, ran behind him with wide eyes. The stranger's name was Mr. Rahul. Many years ago, he had grown up in this exact same village. Through sheer hard work and determination, he had built a successful life in a faraway metropolis. Mr. Rahul gathered the villagers and sat beneath the shade of a massive, ancient banyan tree. When he began to speak, the entire crowd fell silent. He spoke in a way no one there had ever heard before, in clear, beautiful, and confident English. Kiran sat right in the front row. His mouth was open in absolute amazement. He was utterly spellbound by how smoothly the words flowed from the man's lips. Mr. Rahul looked at the crowd and smiled warmly. "I was once poor, just like every one of you sitting here today," he said. "But I made a choice. I learned English every single day, without ever stopping, without ever giving up. That one single skill changed my entire destiny. It opened every closed door in the world for me." Hearing those words, Kiran felt a sudden warmth in his chest. It felt like a small, powerful fire had just been lit inside him. That night, he could not sleep. His mind was racing with a singular, beautiful thought: if Rahul could do it, then why can't I? The Daily Promise. The very next morning, Kiran woke up long before the sun climbed into the sky. He splashed freezing cold water on his face, looked into a small, cracked mirror, and made a firm declaration to his reflection: starting today, everything changes. He searched the house and found an old, forgotten English textbook buried under a broken wooden table. He gently dusted it off and pressed it to his chest like a priceless treasure. Right then and there, Kiran made a solemn promise to himself. He wrote his new daily rules in big, bold letters in his torn notebook. 1. Learn at least 10 new English words every morning. 2. Practice speaking English out loud for 30 minutes before doing anything else. At first, no one understood. His family worried he was wasting precious time that should be spent helping on the farm. His friends openly laughed at his efforts. A village boy named Sesh mocked him loudly in public, saying, "Look at Kiran. He is trying to act way too big for his shoes." But Kiran did not fight back. He simply smiled quietly, turned around, and walked back to his small corner to study. He knew in his heart that actions would eventually speak much louder than defense. The weight of failure. 3 months passed. Kiran never missed a single morning of practice. Yet, his progress felt painfully slow. There were days when his brain felt completely exhausted, and a heavy weight of discouragement pressed down on him. One afternoon, a visiting school teacher came to the village. Sensing an opportunity, Kiran gathered his courage and tried to speak to him in English. But as soon as he spoke, the teacher stopped him. In a sharp, strict voice, the teacher corrected almost every single word Kiran uttered. Kiran's face burned bright red. He felt completely humiliated in front of his peers. He walked home that day with a heavy heart and his head hanging low. Seeking comfort, he went to sit alone under the great banyan tree. He opened his notebook to the very first page and stared at a quote he had written weeks prior. "Every great person you admire once started from absolute zero." Kiran closed his eyes and thought deeply about his journey. He pictured his father's rough, tired hands. He pictured his mother's gentle, hopeful eyes. "I am not doing this just for myself," he whispered. "I am doing this to lift my family out of the mud." With renewed strength, he stood up, brushed the dust off his trousers, and walked home. That night, he studied harder than he ever had before. The turning tide. By the 6th month of unshakable daily discipline, something magical began to happen. Kiran noticed that English words were no longer lagging in his mind. They were arriving naturally. When he read a sentence, he understood it instantly. When he spoke, the words came out cleaner, sharper, and filled with a quiet confidence. He began borrowing an old mobile phone from a kind neighbor. He used it to record his own voice, listening to the playbacks carefully to correct his pronunciation. He watched educational videos, paying close attention to how native speakers moved their lips to shape sounds. He would stand in front of his small bathroom mirror for hours, mimicking their tone and style. One evening, his little sister Priya came to him holding a piece of paper. "Brother, can you help me write this English letter for school?" she asked timidly. Kiran sat down beside her. Without a single hesitation, he wrote the entire letter in flawless, beautiful English prose. Priya looked at the paper, her eyes shining with pure pride. "Brother," she whispered in awe, "you have become so incredibly good at this." Those simple words from his little sister meant more to him than any prize in the world. He hugged her tightly and said, "Remember this, Priya, hard work always shows up sooner or later." The Grand Arena. A full year after his journey began, an extraordinary announcement reached the village notice board. A major educational organization in the city was hosting a massive public speaking competition for youth across the entire region. The grand prize was a fully funded scholarship to a prestigious university in Delhi. Kiran's heart leaped into his throat. His hands shook slightly as he read the poster. Immediately, the doubts returned from the people around him. "City students speak English from birth," his friends warned. "They will win easily. Don't embarrass yourself." Even his own uncle told him, "Why try to compete with elite city boys? It will only bring shame to our simple family." But echoing in Kiran's mind were the words of Mr. Rahul, "Opportunity never tells you it is coming, so always stay ready." That night, he told his parents he wanted to enter. His mother immediately took his hands in hers, her voice steady and warm. "Whatever happens, my son, we are already proud of you." His father didn't say a word, but he placed a firm, loving hand on Kiran's shoulder. His eyes said everything. That silent blessing gave Kiran more courage than any textbook ever could. 3 weeks of fire. Kiran had exactly 3 weeks to prepare. He chose a topic close to his soul, how one daily habit can transform your entire life. Every morning at 5 a.m., while the rest of the world was fast asleep, Kiran stood in the middle of the empty farmlands. He delivered his speech to the open fields, the tall trees, and the waking birds. He visualized a crowd of thousands standing before him. He stumbled, he forgot lines, and his voice cracked, but every single time, he took a breath and started over from the very beginning. One morning, an elderly neighbor, Uncle Ramath, watched him from a distance. After Kiran finished his passionate delivery, the old man stood completely still, deeply moved. "Son," Uncle Ramath said softly, "I have lived a long time, and I have never heard anyone speak with such power. You have a gift inside you that this village has never seen before." During the final week, Kiran barely slept. He memorized every pause, every breath, and every gesture. He even gathered 10 village children and delivered the speech to them. When they burst into spontaneous applause, Kiran knew deep in his soul that he was ready. The great city. On the morning of the competition, Kiran arrived in the bustling, roaring city for the very first time. Everything was massive, loud, and blindingly bright. He looked up at towering skyscrapers, bustling malls, and thousands of speeding cars. His heart beat wildly against his ribs, but he forced his breathing to remain slow and steady. Inside the grand auditorium, there were 35 other contestants. They looked immaculate, wearing expensive, tailored suits and polished formal shoes. They carried neatly printed notes and chatted flawlessly with one another, exuding absolute confidence. Kiran looked down at his own simple, hand-ironed shirt. He took a long, deep breath and whispered to himself, "They may have better clothes, but I have a better story to tell." When his name was finally called, the auditorium fell into a dead silence. Kiran walked onto the stage, his footsteps echoing. The bright stage lights blinded his eyes, and hundreds of unfamiliar faces stared back at him from the darkness. For one terrifying second, his mind went completely blank. His knees felt weak. The silence stretched. Then, a sudden image flashed in his mind, his father's weathered hands, his mother's hopeful eyes, and his sister's proud smile under the mud roof. Kiran opened his mouth, and his very first sentence rang out like a crystal bell, clear, powerful, and utterly fearless. "I come from a small village where the dreams are much bigger than all the skyscrapers in this city." The voice of truth. The audience was instantly transfixed. Kiran did not deliver a rehearsed, robotic speech. He poured his life onto the stage. He spoke of his tiny village, his torn notebook, his broken pencil, and his grand dream. He spoke openly about his failures, the mockery of his friends, the sharp criticism of the teacher, and the long, freezing nights spent studying by candlelight. He spoke of his father working under the scorching sun without a single complaint, and his mother praying over a smoky clay stove. His accent wasn't perfect. It was distinctly rural. But every single word carried the undeniable weight of absolute truth. People in the audience began leaning forward. In the front row, several judges stopped writing. A few women silently wiped tears from their cheeks. As Kiran reached his conclusion, his voice swelled with an inspiring, magnificent strength. You do not need perfect conditions to start building your greatest life. You only need one decision, one discipline, and one reason that is bigger than your fear. The village in me taught the city in me how to rise. He stepped back and bowed. The verdict. Following the presentations, the judges locked themselves in a private room to deliberate. The auditorium filled with the anxious chatter of contestants checking their phones. Kiran, however, sat in complete silence. He folded his hands, closed his eyes, and meditated. He wasn't thinking about winning or losing. He simply felt an immense wave of gratitude for having the chance to speak his truth. 30 minutes later, the chief judge walked out onto the stage. He tapped the microphone, silencing the room. A warm, respected smile spread across his face. This year, the judge announced clearly, our champion comes from a very small village. The first prize goes to Kiran. The hall completely erupted. A thunderous wave of applause and cheers echoed off the walls. Kiran sat frozen, unable to process the words. The contestant next to him gave him a joyful nudge, grinning wide. That's you, friend. Go up there. Kiran walked back to the stage on trembling legs, tears of pure joy streaming down his face. As he lifted the heavy, gleaming trophy toward the bright stadium lights, he closed his eyes. In that beautiful moment, he didn't see the city anymore. He saw his father, his mother, and his village sky. He whispered softly to his heart, every early morning was worth it. The return of a hero. 2 days later, Kiran walked down the old, familiar dusty road toward his village. But this time, the road wasn't quiet. The entire village had lined the paths to welcome him home. The very people who had mocked him were now cheering his name, clapping their hands with immense pride. Uncle Ramath stood at the front, weeping tears of joy. Children ran alongside Kiran, shouting with pure excitement. At the doorway of his simple mud house stood his mother, holding a small, glowing oil lamp. When Kiran reached her, she placed a trembling hand on his head. She didn't speak a single word, because the tears flowing from her eyes said everything beautifully. His father stepped forward, his eyes locked onto the shining trophy, and then onto his son's face. In a voice thick with emotion, he said, "Son, you have made our family immortal today." The legacy of discipline. That evening, the entire village gathered once more beneath the great banyan tree. Kiran stood before a crowd of wide-eyed young children who sat in the front row, exactly where he had sat a year ago. He held up his small, worn notebook and his short, broken pencil. "I did not win because I am smarter than anyone else in the city," Kiran said softly and clearly. "I won because every single morning, while the world was sleeping, I chose to improve just a little bit. This tiny notebook held my biggest dreams." Later that night, as the brilliant stars emerged to light up the village sky, Kiran sat alone under the tree. He flipped to the very first page of his diary and read his first entry. "Today I will learn 10 new words and never stop." He smiled deeply. Everything had grown from that one simple sentence. He picked up his pen and wrote a final note at the very bottom of the page. "Small daily habits, practiced with fierce consistency, are infinitely more powerful than any rare, natural talent." Kiran did not have expensive online courses. He did not have elite tutors, high-speed internet, or a pristine study room. What he possessed was an ironclad decision and the discipline to honor it every single day. He woke up when others slept. He practiced when others laughed. He remained patient when his progress was completely invisible, and he stood back up every time failure knocked him down. He never waited for the perfect conditions to arrive, because he understood a profound truth. Perfect conditions do not exist. You do not need a perfect start. You do not need a perfect place or perfect tools. You only need one good habit, practiced every single day without ever stopping. The person you are destined to become is simply waiting on the other side of your daily discipline. Start small. Start today. Start right now. Motivation life lesson from this story. The powerful motivation life lessons from Kiran's story, easy to understand and deeply inspiring. 1. Small habits lead to massive success. Kiran did not try to master English in a single day. He made a simple promise: learn 10 new words and practice for 30 minutes every morning. At first, this small habit seemed invisible. But over a year, those small steps built a bridge from his dusty village to a grand city stage. The lesson: do not look for a giant leap. Instead, focus on small, positive things you can do consistently every single day. 2. Never wait for perfect conditions. Kiran did not have high-speed internet, expensive laptops, or private tutors. He had a torn notebook and a broken pencil. If he had waited until his family had money or until he lived in a big city, his journey would have never started. The lesson: stop waiting for the perfect time or the perfect tools. Start exactly where you are, with whatever you have right now. 3. Silence the noise and ignore the doubters. When Kiran began his journey, his friends laughed, a village boy mocked him, and even his uncle told him to quit. If Kiran had stopped to argue or feel bad, he would have wasted his energy. Instead, He smiled quietly and went back to his corner to study. He let his success do the talking. The lesson: people will doubt your big dreams because they cannot see your vision. Let your actions speak louder than your words. 4. Failure is a lesson, not the end. When the visiting school teacher strictly corrected Kiran in public, Kiran felt humiliated and wanted to hide. But instead of quitting, he went to the banyan tree, remembered his family's struggles, and used that pain as fuel to study even harder that night. The lesson: mistakes and failures are just proof that you are trying. When you get knocked down, dust yourself off, look at why you started, and keep moving forward. 5. Find a why that is bigger than your fear. On the grand stage, under the blinding city lights, Kiran's mind went completely blank. Fear almost won. But then he remembered his father's rough hands and his mother's hopeful eyes. He wasn't just doing this for himself, he was doing it to lift his entire family. That deep purpose gave him instant courage. The lesson: when your reason for succeeding is about helping the people you love, you will always find the strength to face your deepest fears. The ultimate truth: the person you want to become is waiting on the other side of your daily discipline. Choose growth over comfort every single morning. Learn English from this story. Learning a new language can feel overwhelming, but Kiran's journey shows us the exact roadmap to fluency. Here is how you can use this story to master English, broken down into simple, practical steps. 1. Build a Kiran-style daily habit. Fluency does not come from studying for 5 hours once a week. It comes from small, daily practice. The 10-word rule: every morning, write down 10 new words. Don't just learn what they mean. Write a simple sentence for each one to see how they work in real life. The 30-minute window: dedicate the first 30 minutes of your day to English before you get distracted by your phone, chores, or work. 2. Practice out loud, the mirror technique. Kiran didn't just read quietly. He spoke to empty fields, trees, and his cracked bathroom mirror. Reading helps your brain, but speaking trains your mouth muscles. Action step: read paragraph sections of Kiran's story out loud. Pay attention to how your tongue and lips move. If you stumble, don't worry, just pause, take a breath, and start the sentence over. 3. The shadowing and recording method. Kiran used an old borrowed phone to record his voice and watch videos. You can use your phone to do the exact same thing. Shadowing: listen to an English audio track or video. Try to copy the speaker's voice, speed, and rhythm exactly 1 second after they say it. Record and fix: record yourself reading a paragraph of this story. Play it back and listen carefully. Don't be discouraged by mistakes. Treat them as clues showing you exactly what to fix next time. Your first daily challenge. Open a notebook right now. Pick 3 words from the table above and write your own simple sentences using them. Your journey to mastering English starts with this single, small step. Final thoughts. Kiran didn't have a perfect start, a perfect place, or perfect tools. He only had one good habit: practiced every single day without ever stopping. Remember, the person you want to become is waiting on the other side of your daily discipline. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step today. Now, I have a challenge for you. Open your notebook right now. What is the one small habit you are going to start today to change your life or master your English? Write it down in the comments below. Let's support each other on this journey. If Kiran's story touched your heart and inspired you today, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss your daily dose of powerful motivation. Thank you for watching, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next story. Start small. Start now.